What if the world you see is just a thin, fragile veil, and beneath it there are these ancient realms of power, manipulating forces you can't even comprehend, playing games with mortals like us?
Right, like unwitting pawns. And what if that seemingly simple girl you just passed holds something ancient, maybe terrifying? Or a casual meeting. It suddenly reveals layers and layers of planning by powers older than, well, civilization itself.
Yeah.
This book shows you that's exactly the world you're stepping into.
Okay, so you shared Steven Erikson's incredible book, Gardens of the Moon, with us. We wanted to really dive in, help unpack some of those layers.
That's nuts.
This isn't just, reading the plot. It's about pulling out the key ideas, trying to understand the motivations, seeing the surprising connections hidden inside.
It really is. It's a book that demands you look deeper, you question everything, you have to apply some serious critical thinking to this really complex narrative.
Absolutely.
It actually reminds me of the kind of analysis we explore over on our YouTube channel, Mindful Moments.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which uses AI to help inspire reflection and critical thinking about these really dense texts. So this exploration of Gardens of the Moon, it's totally in that spirit, looking beneath the surface, finding the insight in the details.
I like that. And this book definitely doesn't hold your hand. The reward for paying attention is just immense. So based on the book you shared, let's start right where it does with the Malazan Empire and that feeling that things are, well, kind of falling apart.
You feel it immediately. The empire's under Empress Lysine now. Kellanvid's reign just ended.
Yeah.
And there's this grinding weight to it all.
Yeah.
The book gives you perspectives like Riga, this old woman, describing how the empire's been grinding this land down for 100 years, completely erasing the memory of a free country that was her home.
Wow.
So it's not just conquest outwards, it's this internal oppression, too, just wearing everyone down.
And that discontent it's really palpable, isn't it? Especially in the military. You see the soldiers are unhappy. There are these rumors flying around about veteran groups like the bridge burners being retired, sidelined. Or worse, exactly. You get this strong sense right from the start that someone really high up, maybe in the Empress's court, actively wants certain military groups gone. Why do you think the book emphasizes this internal threat so early on?
Well, I think because the external conflict, like the Siege of Pale, it's almost a distraction. The real danger, as the book shows you, it's coming from within.
Right.
You've got Sergeant Whiskey Jack, who's a ranking officer, now just leading a small squad. He feels that demotion keenly.
Yeah, you can tell.
And characters like Quick Ben and Kalam, they're brutally aware of it. They believe they're driving us into the ground. They mean to. The suspicion is right there.
It's explicit.
Yeah. Even someone as high-ranking as High Fist Dujek Onarm, he's facing what feel like impossible orders, strategic absurdities coming from Lysine. And he has to navigate that, knowing his own position. And the lives of his soldiers are constantly at risk.
Dujek is such a fascinating study in duty, though. He's loyal to the idea of the empire Kellanvad built, the strategy, but he sees the ruthlessness, the paranoia under Lysine. The book shows him trying to be this brilliant commander while maybe, just maybe, undermining the Empress's cruelest directives. It's a masterclass, like you saw, in keeping your integrity, your resilience under immense pressure.
Precisely. And then on the other side of that coin, you have Adjunct Lorne. She is explicitly the Empress's instrument, investigating this horrific massacre. The description is chilling. Nothing left but stains, not even hair. It points immediately to something beyond normal warfare, right? Powerful magic, maybe creatures.
Right.
And her initial mission, it gets diverted almost immediately, probably by the very forces that caused the massacre she was looking into.
So she's being manipulated even as she thinks she's in control.
The book definitely implies that, yeah. Even as she tries to serve Lysine.
She's absolutely determined, though, almost mirroring Lysine's cold will. Her belief is that the old guard, anyone loyal to the old emperor, has to disappear for Lysine's rule to be secure.
Right, a clean sweep.
Yet the book highlights her making exceptions, like recognizing Dujek's value. Despite facing constant setbacks, moral compromises, her focus stays almost terrifyingly sharp.
Yeah.
The insight there is how the Empire's power isn't just command, it's targeted purges, often using these blunt, devastating tools like Lorne.
And what's instantly clear in this book you shared is that this political maneuvering, it's not happening in a vacuum. It's all interwoven with forces that are ancient, powerful, and definitely not mortal.
Okay, yes.
Which brings us to the unseen powers really shaping events.
Ah, yes, the Warrens. This book introduces magic in a way that's just totally different from a lot of fantasy. Warrens aren't just spells. You saw they're described as paths, dimensional pathways, used for both channeling magic and for travel. Characters like Hairlock and Tattersail talk about elder magic, like Curald Ghislaine, and Warrens, dangerously close to chaos. How does the book convey the nature of these Warrens?
It really emphasizes their danger, their unpredictability.
Yeah.
Hairlock describes them as raw, primal, vicious.
Yeah.
Tied to pure madness or desperation sometimes.
So not like flicking a switch.
Definitely not. Walking them is risky. The insight here is that magic isn't some tidy system. It's tapping into volatile, often sentient dimensions that can consume you or warp you just as easily as grant power.
And these pathways are often tied to even bigger things, the gods and ascendants. You encounter names like Hood, Lord of Death, Opon, those mischievous twins of chance, Shadowthrone, who you learn was Emperor Kellenbed.
Right, big reveal there.
And the elder god Kroll, whispered to be the maker of paths himself. The book shows these powers are active players, right?
Oh, absolutely. They don't just sit back and watch. They intervene, they influence, they manipulate. You see Opon's touch subtly guiding or messing with characters like Perrin and the thief Crocus.
Pushing them into danger or maybe giving them unlikely luck?
Exactly. Both sides of the coin, literally. Shadowthrone explicitly claims the girl, tying her fate into his own dark plans. Kurul appears in dreams, this subtle ancient force. The insight is, the Malazan world is like a cosmic chessboard. Mortals are often just unaware pawns in games centuries, millennia old. Your choices might not always be entirely your own.
Wow. And it's not just gods. The book is filled with these ancient races and terrifying creatures, too. The Talanames, for instance, the Silent Host, how are they presented?
They're shown as these skeletal, animated beings bound by some ancient ritual, serving the Empire with this chilling efficiency.
Right. Undead soldiers, kind of.
Sort of, but more complex. The book reveals they have this incredibly deep ancient history tied to their own empire of Ys. And Toulon is a key example. He's an unbound Ys, breaking the mold.
And paradoxically, he's way more talkative than his silent brethren.
Yeah, giving you glimpses into their tragic past.
You also encounter the Jagut, like the tyrant-rayist, solitary, immensely powerful beings, once tyrants of vast empires. The book hints at their history of avoiding each other, knowing the sheer destructive power if they converge. And the creatures. The Hounds of Shadow, huge, terrifying beasts that can bypass even Imass defenses. You see them hunting Perrin.
Terrifying. And the Elite Dragons, like Solana, allied with Anomander Rake, the legendary son of darkness.
And the most stunning parts of the book, as you pointed out, are when these forces actually collide.
Oh, yeah.
That attack on Moon Spawn, Rake's flying fortress, involves Imperial High Mages unleashing devastating magic. But the book reveals this horrific twist. High Mage Tayshrin wasn't just firing on Moon Spawn.
No, he was also targeting his own soldiers on the plain below.
Chilling. The insight there is just the casual, awful cost of power, where even allies become expendable for some larger, maybe unseen goal.
And then, here's where it gets really interesting. It shows you the true scale of this world. The emergence of the Jagged Tyrant Reyes from his burrow near Pay.
Okay, yeah, that was huge.
His clash with Solana and the other dragons is cosmic. The book describes it so vividly, an ice and firestorm tearing across the landscape, cracking hills, raising these huge dust clouds. It's ancient primordial power unleashed.
Right.
The insight is that the human conflicts, as devastating as they seem, are just dwarfed by these immense forces operating just beneath the surface. It completely resets your perspective on the whole story.
And this collision of forces directly impacts the individuals you're following in the book. Ganos Perrin's journey is maybe the clearest example.
Definitely.
He starts as this naive, noble kid, hoping for a military career, but boom, he's thrown right into a world of deception and danger as Lorne's lieutenant. He's repeatedly touched by the unseen Opon's touch, being hunted by a Hound of Shadow, having visions.
He survives impossible situations, realizes he's being used, becomes a tool of Opon. He sees things that just break his understanding of the world, like those chained beings in the wagon vision.
Yeah, creepy.
But there's this powerful moment of transformation, a sort of grim liberation. After he leaves the Empire and his noble past behind, he feels, damn, I've never felt so alive.
Right.
The insight is that shedding expectations, facing the brutal reality, can actually be the path to finding a truer, maybe harder sense of self and purpose.
Then there's the whole mystery of... You see her introduced as this uncanny, almost soulless girl tied to Shadow. She unsettles even someone as sharp as Quickben.
Yeah, she's unnerving.
And Tattersail, the sorceress, who goes through horrific trauma in Pale. She dies with Bullarden, but then the book gives you this shocking event. Her soul undergoes this surprising shift, rebirth into a new body, seemingly helped by ancient powers like Kurul and the Talana mass bonecasters.
Her new life is described as unique, protected by some inner presence.
Which you later realize is Cotillion, Shadowthrone's dangerous companion.
Whoa. Yeah, that detail, that cotillion is inside, or Tattersail's new form.
Yeah.
It just reveals the depth of the manipulation from the Ascendant.
It's not just nudges, it's literal possession or integration.
Exactly. And finally, the seemingly bumbling, witty figure of Krupe in Darujhistan. He looks like comic relief at first.
Oh, Krupe.
But the book quickly reveals his hidden depth.
Right. He's far more than he appears, a powerful, adept, extraordinary senses, navigating the dream realm, hearing that endless ringing tied to Opon and the spinning coin.
He sees the layers of manipulation, the gods' games.
Yeah.
The insight is that appearances are so deceiving. True power, true awareness in this world often hides behind masks of ordinariness or even buffoonery. He even defies gods in his dreams.
Incredible. And speaking of Krupe, a lot of these threads seem to converge in Darujhistan, right? That legendary city the bridge burners are marching toward.
Definitely. Darujhistan is a hotbed of intrigue, a city with its own deep history, its own hidden power structures. The Assassin's Guild is central to the plot there, caught up in this war that the Empire and other powers are trying to exploit.
You meet figures like Vorkin, the ruthless master assassin, Ralik Gnome, an assassin who operates with the surprising code of integrity, of honor.
Which is rare in that world.
Very. Councilman Turban Orr, Lady Simtal, and Rallis' friends Murillo and Call.
Ralik's story there, as you saw, it gets deeply personal. It's a quest for vengeance and honor for his friend Call, who was badly wounded by another clan leader, Ocelot.
Right. Set up.
You see Ralik in action, including that incredibly tense duel with Turban Orr at Lady Simtal's party. He's presented as this man trying to keep a moral compass, a sense of justice, in a fundamentally corrupt system. His personal fight really reflects that larger struggle for integrity in a world full of power plays.
And the city itself holds so many secrets, key players watching this convergence of forces. The Eel, this master spy.
Operating through agents like Circlebreaker beneath the old despot's barbican.
And Baruch, the master alchemist, another vital figure, allied with Animander Rake, watching the hidden currents of the city, aware of all these powerful entities gathering there.
Yeah. The insight is that Darujhistan is more than just a setting. It's like a complex organism where all these different power networks, assassins, spies, alchemists, gods, they all intersect.
And kind of at the heart of some of this chaos is Crocus Younghand, the young thief who finds that two-headed coin, explicitly tied to Opon.
And he immediately becomes a target. Hunted by Lorne, even runs into this terrifying demon seemingly unleashed by Teshren's agent.
Right, just bad luck. Or maybe Opon's influence?
Probably both.
Right.
Crocus is really defined by his loyalty, though, to Absalar, to his uncle Mammoth. But being forced into danger by the coin, he starts to develop this protective connection to Darujhistan itself. It was his home. He's just an ordinary person thrust into extraordinary circumstances by being close to these powerful artifacts and beings.
Lady Simtal's fate becomes this perfect focal point, doesn't it? A microcosm of the city's intrigue where so many characters and plots converge.
Absolutely. The Assassin's Duel, the confrontation between Ralik and Vorkin, Baruch and Rake watching it all. It's a great example in the book of how personal stories and these grand manipulations play out in the exact same physical space.
It's fascinating how all these different threads eventually start to weave together. Characters really rooted in Darujhistan like Krupe, Murillo, Ralik, Crocus, Baruch. They intersect with the Malazans, led by Whiskey Jack, marching towards the city, carrying their own burdens and, the attention of those powerful entities.
And there's that strange, growing wooden block found near the city.
Oh, yeah. What was that about?
Well, you see it linked to the events at the Jacupero, where Tattersail was reborn. Ralik finds he can actually affect its growth somehow, realizes its dangerous power, and connects it to Baruch, and maybe Vorkin's plans against Mammoth.
So it's another thread showing how those ancient magical events tie directly into the current political and personal conflicts in the city.
Exactly. But despite all the overwhelming power, the manipulation, the often grim reality shown in the book, it consistently highlights these moments of connection, of resilience.
That's true. The bonds among the bridge burners, Whiskey Jack, Quick Ben, Kalam, Fiddler, Hedge, Mallet, They're fiercely loyal. It's a source of strength, dark humor, in a brutal world. They trust each other when they can trust almost no one else.
Yeah, that camaraderie between Rallick, Murillo, and Call too. Yeah. Mamet's quiet care for Crocus. Baruch's trust in Rallick despite his profession. Absalar's simple statement of trust in Crocus. These smaller personal moments of loyalty and friendship, they really stand out sharply against the backdrop of cynical power plays and cosmic indifference.
It feels like the insight there is that human connection remains vital, maybe even sacred, in a world governed by these powerful, often inhuman forces.
Well said. And you see characters finding meaning, finding purpose, even in these incredibly difficult circumstances. Paran, shedding his noble past, feels truly alive for the first time.
Right.
Rallick, fighting for vengeance and honor, finds a direction in the chaos of the Assassin's War. These aren't easy paths, but the book shows characters actively forging their identities through hardship.
And there are just incredible moments of sheer survival against overwhelming odds. Tattersail initially surviving that hound attack. Perrin's numerous close calls.
Just the bridge burners enduring the horrific siege of Pale and its brutal aftermath.
Yeah. These characters face impossible situations, thrown into conflicts way beyond their initial understanding, and somehow they just keep going. That resilience is such a powerful theme running through the book.
So as you explored in Gardens of the Moon, this really isn't just a story of military conquest. It's a vast, complex tapestry, woven with hidden magic, divine interference, the machinations of ancient races, and these deeply personal struggles for identity, survival, purpose. All set against this backdrop of immense, often indifferent power.
It forces you to look past the surface, doesn't it? To question motivations and to think critically about the multiple layers of reality of the characters, and by extension, you, the reader, navigate every day.
Absolutely.
It's a book that absolutely benefits from that kind of deep engagement and critical analysis, much like the approach we champion on Mindful Moments and right here on our podcast.
Exactly. Engaging with complex narratives like the one you shared sharpens those critical thinking skills you can apply to anything you encounter, whether it's another story or, frankly, the real world.
Yeah.
Look for the hidden layers, the unseen forces, the competing motivations behind what you just see on the surface.
If you found this exploration fascinating, please subscribe so you don't miss our future explorations into complex ideas and narratives.
And definitely share this with someone else who enjoys incredibly rich, complex fantasy or just loves thinking critically about the stories they read.
And if you haven't read it yet, consider picking up a copy of Gardens of the Moon. You can find a link to purchase it in the description for this discussion.
We'll leave you with this thought to mull over. What hidden forces are truly at play in the stories you read? And how do those intricate layers reflect the layers of reality you navigate every single day?